sure that, like I, you cannot help but have noticed the complete withdrawal by the corporate and public sector from what we used to call customer service. How we can no longer speak about customer service, only customer disservice. Also, I cannot be alone in having decided to simply stop consuming a whole wide range of products and services from an increasing range of providers. Not because these products and services would not be useful, nor that things, I should say that things often do go well without problems. But the reason I've withdrawn is that when there is a problem, there's simply no resolution. I've spoken at length about the UK Passport Office inability to issue me with a passport in anything like a reasonable timescale, nor provide me with any information about when I would receive my passport, which I required to visit my dying mother, even lying to me and purposely wasting my time and money. Now, given this is a public service, I believe that such practices undermine the very contract between government and their electorate. You might like to say undermine democracy even. More recently, I've stopped ordering from Indonesia's leading e-commerce provider. You see, an order was delivered to the wrong address. But this wasn't my real concern. It was that I spent over 6 hours explaining and recounting the problem to the e-commerce company and their couriers. I did explain that I would not use the company nor the courier again, but nobody seemed to care. And I think that's it. If businesses don't care about their customers, why should we care about them? For much of these 6 hours, I was actually engaging with artificial intelligence bots. So do we blame artificial intelligence? Well, that's at the core of what this vlog is about. In the very early days of personal computers, I worked in North America as a business consultant. The job involved flying to largely small towns on the Eastern Central Time Zone and performing an analysis of SMEs. I'd received some training to do this and was reasonably proficient. Once my managers deemed me to be proficient enough, I was given a portable computer. I say portable, but it was basically a suitcase. I'm sure that it was manufactured by Hewlett-Packard. It had a built-in output printer, but like those on cash registers, so only printing out a narrow textual and numerical outputs. It was neither any quicker nor more accurate than that which I could do by hand. But it had a dramatic effect on my clients. They would stand over this suitcase waiting for this narrow printed output, believing that within this suitcase was the mystical solution to their business's problems. Since this experience, I've regularly questioned computer programs and their outputs. I recall attending a pyramid selling event and was immediately spotted that the miraculous software's main purpose was to hide what was really going on. It was nothing miraculous, simply a Ponzi scheme. I have to say that I'm also very dubious about online gambling and investment sites. Now, some may be honest, in fact many may be honest, but I myself am so dubious. You see, there's absolutely no need to design a site which does what it says in order to make money. In other words, there's no incentive to be honest. And this has got me to thinking, isn't the same for artificial intelligence? How so many of us are now experiencing doing exactly the same as I'm talking about. You may also know that I owned a number of software companies. I've been interested in artificial intelligence for many years, and especially when neural networks started to become accessible to small software development companies. Indeed, my companies pioneered the application of artificial intelligence within the UK's public sector. So yes, I am to blame. And yes, I somewhat know what I'm talking about. And no, I'm not against artificial intelligence in principle. But like all technology, it's the application of the technology and their role in cementing existing power relationships that I would question. Now, my suitcase that I lugged up and down the central and eastern time zones of the US was really an expert system. All it was doing was using the same logic that I had manually. And as I say, it was neither quicker nor more accurate, at least not in those early days. Well, artificial intelligence has really developed from those expert systems. Instead of having fixed relationships or correlations, it uses processing speed to look for all relationships or correlations, including those that the human mind would normally reject. In this lies its power, but also its problem or downfall. In other words, even the experts have now fallen for this black box solution, just as my business owners did my suitcase. Any statistician will tell you that because there is a correlation does not establish cause and effect. Just as scientists should know that experimentation cannot prove, only disprove. However much the media claims that experts have proven this or proven that. Well, because we don't understand the technology, we don't question its outputs. It's just as we've created a series of economic crises because we don't understand the economic and financial instruments that we are using. Could this complication and obfuscation be deliberate? You see, the human race has now become test marketing guinea pigs for deliberately complex products and services. Deliberately complex products and services that nobody's established if they actually do what they claim. Indeed, it's much cheaper to test market on humans than to go to actual test marketing. Allow me to digress to explain the theory to you, at least a little. I've mentioned a few times that I'm partially qualified in psychology. Well, the qualification actually allows me to administer personality tests. While such tests are often based on a theory of personality, which itself is often based on my hero, Carl Jung, the truth is statistics are used to validate them. What I mean by this is that items, as they're called, or questions that we'd see it as validated, using statistics to actually access if they actually measure anything. The responses to these questions may be then statistically clustered to provide personality types. And now I believe this to be useful as it helps to cluster personalities and therefore for humans to comprehend them. In other words, they take a mass of complicated data and simplifies it so that humans can see patterns within it. But we need to understand that such clusters are no more valid than archetypes or zodiac signs, apart from the fact that they've been statistically validated. Well, artificial intelligence uses a pattern recognition approach by performing multiple statistical tests as a correlation. Remember, many of these patterns that are ones that a left-brained scientist would reject. Many systems also test their outputs by running them against known data, which is called training data. So I'm not suggesting that the outputs are spurious, although they might be. Simply that we should not get carried away with the fact that they're coming out of a black box. Now, I could be accused of simplifying how artificial intelligence works. But maybe my simplification is deliberate, just as their complication is. In other words, artificial intelligence does not live up to its promise. Yes, it may be impressive, but only because we unquestionably accept its outputs. For example, I rely far too much on Google Translate, but there is no substitute for learning a language. Or put another way, it is replicating human intelligence in providing expert systems. But that's all. It's certainly not the same, nor superior to human intelligence, just an alternative. What this means is that artificial intelligence is excellent for suggesting answers that humans would not normally consider, either because they seem ridiculous, or an output is required quicker than a human could come up with it. Like the outputs from personality tests, I believe that any output from artificial intelligence needs to be checked, or at least for face validity, with somebody who at least has an understanding of the problem. But it also suggests to me that artificial intelligence is best used in supporting human intelligence and not replacing it. For example, artificial intelligence would be excellent in supporting psychologists in developing personality tests, or marketeers in understanding their consumers. But it only helps in understanding consumers. One only has to look at the suggestions on this platform to recognise its limitations. As a creator, this has a major impact on my success or failure as a channel. But I'm also suggesting that once these relationships are established, they should really move over to a manual system, or at least a fixed expert system. By all means, continue to use artificial intelligence for innovation, but not core operations. Where the outputs are required in such a tight time frame for operations, then sometimes artificial intelligence will have a role. But it has to be in supporting expert human intelligence and not replacing it. For example, optical character recognition used artificial intelligence to process signals. But once done, it can be better dealt with by expert systems. The same should be true for language translation. But right now, artificial intelligence is still in training, even on common languages, as it will not yet have processed all potential pronunciations and dialects. So why is artificial intelligence being applied to core operations? Well, is it not simple commercial greed and a degree of subterfuge by software companies? Using the black box again to perform a sleight of hand with their customers? You might argue that this is normal commercial practice and supports the most efficient allocation of resources. Well, I'd say rubbish. Since Edward Bernays, we've had the ability to create demand for what we don't need. So with enough marketing budget, we can sell products that humans really don't need, maybe even are dangerous to us. Big tech companies are creating our concern, even phobia, about issues we previously considered normal. Big tech companies are selling artificial intelligence as a panacea for those issues that concern us the most. We're becoming addicted to the mundane, addicted to complex solutions that is no solution at all. How else could we explain the application of artificial intelligence to search engines, even though this is going ahead at full pace right now? A more sinister application is when applied to counselling. Even without artificial intelligence, an expert system can convince the patient that it's an expert counsellor. How? Well, the patient simply looks for somebody to talk to. So the computer simply needs to rephrase what they say. But instead of seeing the solution as being more human contact, business sees artificial intelligence and psychotropics as the solution. Artificial intelligence that now imitates real human responses that have been trained on real humans, and somehow we see it as superior. Worse still, we eventually see through artificial intelligence and are no longer satisfied with talking to bots. You see, the holy grail for artificial intelligence has been to convince humans that they're interacting with a fellow human. And this is so open to abuse and sleight of hand. Maybe like me, you'll even become angry that you cannot get past the artificial intelligence and talk to a real person. I liken it to the realisation that I've been duped into thinking that artificial intelligence is actually intelligent. But what will we do when all the customer service representatives, doctors and counsellors have already been replaced? You will, like I, be all too aware that social media is policed by artificial intelligence bots. When posts are flagged as being controversial, they may then be checked by armies of fact-checkers on probably less than $2 an hour in Manila. These fact-checkers are really looking at the outputs of artificial intelligence, pattern recognition, and asking them to do a face validity. In other words, these companies are fully aware of the fallibility of artificial intelligence, but unwilling to address it. They know that such pattern recognition can go horribly wrong, even bots becoming threatening and abusive towards humans, and are placing a kill switch within the system. Returning to my concern about customer service, without customers, businesses have no business. Without support, government have no mandate. Therefore, customer service should be at the core of their enterprise. Of course, dealing with customers can be frustrating. Frequently, they do not see things as the same way as the organisation. Indeed, if they did, they would not contact customer service. But the application of artificial intelligence betrays the utter contempt of business and governments towards their customers and electorate. Now, I will return to this because it's very, very important. With the development of call centres, enterprises have been so quick in subcontracting out their customer service to the other side of the world. Call centres using expert systems which tell them exactly what to say. Call centres which map out every problem the developers can think of and every solution they can think of. Call centres which do not collect data on the previous contact and therefore every call is treated as unique. Call centres where operatives are rewarded for how quick they can end their call with a customer. Having subcontracted the customer service to external providers, enterprises no longer have any idea of what their customers think about them. Only the prescriptive feedback they get from the call centres, which has an inbuilt positive bias within it. Therefore, having saved a lot of money by subcontracting customer service to call centres, it's an obvious candidate for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligent bots can deal with so many routine issues without any human contact, only passing difficult customers on to real humans, like me. Sorry, I like me like a difficult customer, not a real human. But then these real humans are either using expert systems or the very same artificial intelligence to find a solution. In other words, they don't find a solution. Now, I mentioned the contempt that businesses must have for their customers and politicians for their electorate if they use artificial intelligence for customer service. And I did promise to return to it. Well, doesn't this reflect their value system? That they're superior to their customers and their electorate? After all, they have risen to the top and their customers and electorate are at the bottom. One only has to visit a bar full of politicians. You can substitute that for teachers or marketeers, business people, a whole host of people who consider themselves professionals. To hear them rubbishing their customers, the electorate, as ill-informed, stupid. They don't know what they want, and that they, such as the politicians, know what is best for them. After all, if they didn't think like this, why would they enter politics? But not only is customer service subcontracted, but in society we actually subcontract operations from decision makers and those they supposedly are held accountable by. Thinking of customer service in the public sector, politicians atomise public services from the democratic process, despite claiming that there is democratic scrutiny, urging public sector managers to be efficient without consideration of how this might affect the democratic process, or even confidence in democracy itself. Public sector managers are therefore incentivised to cut costs. Even this actually undermines the contract between the electorate and politicians. Why wouldn't public sector managers subcontract customer service? They need to please their managers and ultimately politicians, and not the electorate. An oft-quoted study on the impact of artificial intelligence is that very soon it'll affect 80% of jobs and destroy at least 25% of all jobs. I think in the past I've quoted 50, there's various surveys. Those jobs that are most vulnerable are those that currently carry a premium within the workplace, such as doctors and software developers. But what does this mean? Isn't the whole point of an economy to provide for humanity? And for many years this has been in the form of jobs. So what does it really mean is that monopoly businesses want to continue making money whilst not providing for humanity. Once again, a black box. We cannot question the need to replace jobs, nor the need to provide for humanity. Simply argue if artificial is desirable or not. Maybe at its most extreme is the application of artificial intelligence when applied to law enforcement and the military. Artificial intelligence takes out human judgment and therefore human morality. Perhaps this is the most dangerous example of putting faith in what are after all simply tools. Tools which give more power to those in power whilst disenfranchising the rest of humanity. So artificial intelligence is being used by those in power to impose their worldview on us. It's another form of hegemony, never questioning existing power structures, nor economic systems, but reinforcing them. Placing the most difficult people and questions in yet another black box. Maybe we need to include in those difficult people workers, as why else would we deliberately be destroying jobs? And therein lies the real reason for the explosion in the use of artificial intelligence. Maybe we should not be fearful of artificial intelligence, but those behind it, or at least their assumptions. Brilliantly summed up by children speaking to Jaron Lanier. If we're going to become obsolete, why did our parents have us?